Hello everyone, so I'm here today to do predictions on the winner of the Booker 2020. So I read all the long lists as part of the Booker Boy Book Club that Kieran from Katie Books organized, and I will leave a link to his channel below. And I was not really happy with the shortlist. I think that they missed some really good books, but it is what it is. And I want to make a video about the winner before it is announced. I'm hesitant to call it a prediction because I'm not really trying to predict what the judges will decide, because I think that this particular set of judges are very unpredictable and they want to be unpredictable. So instead what I'm going to do is rank the books from the one that I want the least to win to the one that I want the most to win. A bit like the book to price kind of list. And that's not, again, it's not a prediction, it's what I enjoyed the most, which might not be what the judges enjoyed the most. On that note, let's start. The sixth book, so the one I want to win the least, would be The New Wilderness by Diane Cook. So this book follows a mother and daughter. The mother is called Bee and the daughter is called Agnes. And it's in a sort of an apocalyptic world in which the pollution has gotten so bad that it's affecting especially children, and they are getting so sick that they are almost dying, and that's what happened to Agnes. So Bee, the mother, decides that instead of letting her die, she's going to participate in this experiment of how people go back to the wilderness and see if they can survive without polluting the environment and completely killing the environment. And I have seen this very often referred as a climate change book. I want to be clear, I don't think this is a climate change book, it's a pollution book. They go away because of the pollution in the city, and they are trying to not pollute the environment, that the new environment they are in. It's a local thing, and therefore it's pollution. Climate change, you cannot run away from climate change by going to the wilderness. So I just wanted to be clear about that, because I think there was a lot of confusion on that. But basically what we are following is Bee and Agnes as they become part of a bigger group of people that are participating in that experiment, and they have a lot of rules of how much they can do in nature to see if they can survive without polluting it, and if they can live like that. And you can see some of the dynamics of the group. And an interesting thing of the book that I found interesting was that whereas the adults of the group seem to try to have similar structures as they did before, Agnes especially, she's trying to become more of a part of nature, a bit the way that Native Americans do. But overall I think that point was very muddled, and this was interesting while reading it, but I don't think it was anything special. I don't think that as a book it had a big impact on me. So yeah, that's my sixth book. Then on the fifth place I put Real Life by Brandon Taylor. Now I know a lot of people like this book, and yeah, it might be a candidate for winning, but for me personally it was just boring. So this follows a PhD student of biology, and this weekend in which he goes with his friends from the lab to a different place, and it follows his interaction with these people that he calls friends but are not really friends, and he also develops feelings for another man that is supposed to not be gay, but it turns out that he's gay and has no problem with it, but wants to keep it secret, which is problematic in itself. And even though the sentence level writing is well done, Um, Not much happens here, and it just, I didn't see the point of it, to be honest. I think that for me the highlight of it was the lab scenes where he was working on the labs and talking about how that works, and I think that's most people's less favorite part of this book. But because I could relate as a scientist, that was the only thing that I could find interesting, because the rest of the book for me was quite flat. So yeah, controversial maybe, but that's my opinion. And then on fourth place I put The Shadow King by Masa Mengiste. So The Shadow King is following, it's divided in three parts, and the first part is following this girl in Ethiopia, and this is set at the time when Mussolini tried to invade Ethiopia, which was the only time that Ethiopia was tried to colonize. Never really was colonized, but this was the biggest try. So yeah, it follows this girl as she is included in a military family in Ethiopia that serves Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia, and how she slowly becomes part of this army of women that want to defend their country. And I found that part was great, and then in the later parts that idea of the women army gets muddled into a lot of weird stylistic choices and a lot of more talk about the men on the story than I would have liked to. So I think the structure did not work in this book, but I think that the concept is so interesting and so new, and I think it opens a lot of doors that I find really really important to open to the Western world. So that's why it's my fourth place, even though I think maybe it achieves what it wants to achieve less than real life, but what it is trying to achieve is so much more interesting that for me it's worth the fourth place. So yeah, and then the third place I put Sukibane by Douglas Stewart. So this one is about the relationship between a boy and his mom in Glasgow in the 70s or 80s, I think in the 80s. This is a very strained relationship because the mother is an alcoholic, and we can see Shaggy continuously trying to make her better and do things for her in the hope that she would stop being an alcoholic, but it is an addiction, so she's never able to stop, and we see how that strains that relationship and how Shugi's heart is broken over and over again. I think that this was a well-written, well-structured novel, but I think that it dragged a lot in the middle. I think that it was a bit too long, and at some point I didn't care enough about the characters to keep reading. Even though it was a very sad, emotional story, it never made me connect to the characters in a way that I really wanted to know what happened, because I think that the main reason is that I have read this before, and so I knew how it was going to end, so that it was predictable in that sense, and I just didn't feel like it did anything special. Like what it did was good, but again it didn't do anything special enough for me to be blown away by it. So yeah, that's my third choice. And then the second one I've put Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi, which is also The Girl in White Cotton in some countries, if you cannot find it as Burnt Sugar. And this one again was one with a very interesting premise. So this one follows the mother-daughter relationship of these two women, and at the beginning of the book we learn that the mother has dementia and the daughter has to take care of the mother now, And so we see that relationship strain because both of these women are mothers that didn't want to be mothers, and therefore they are not very good mothers. So it is about this woman trying to take care of a mother that she never really liked, and she is supposed to love, but she doesn't really feel like that. So it is that contraposition of the societal norms as of and opposed to the individual feelings and the individual, not desires, but the individual dreams and goals, let's say, and how society puts certain expectations on people that they need to fulfill, even though they might not be willing and fit to do so. And I think that conversation was very interesting. However, I think that the structure went back and forth between the past and the present, and it also had these little bits of art and science all spread across that didn't fit as a whole narrative. So that disengaged me from the main story, and I don't think that the author succeeded at focusing on what she wanted the story and the message to be, and she just got distracted by all these other things, and it made me distracted at least, and I didn't feel like it came as a whole as a novel. So even though I liked the topic, I think that this one was not a little bit like The Shadow King. I think the concept was amazing, but the execution was a bit off, and this one was better than The Shadow King, obviously, but yeah, I think that the execution could have been better, and it made me mad that it was not, but no worries, because the last book I'm going to talk about I did really enjoy, and that is This Mournable Body by Tsitsi Dangaremka. And this is the third book of the Nervous Conditions trilogy. So the first one is The Nervous Conditions, where we follow Tambu, who is a girl in Zimbabwe that wants to study really, really bad. So the first book follows her really trying to get to school, because her parents do not have the means to send her to school. They are only sending her brother to school. But she doesn't care. She's a very ambitious person. And so she finds her means to be able to go to school. And in the second book, we see her, in the Book of Knots, we see her in school. And even though she's very ambitious and very smart, and you would think that she will do very well in school, she doesn't. And I think that a lot of it is shown to be because she's a black woman in Zimbabwe, a Zimbabwean. And the school is run by missionaries and by nuns from Western countries. And so in that school, she's asked to give up her humanity as a Zimbabwean to be able to fit the Western standards, and she refuses to do that, and that's why she's not able to succeed. And then in the third book, in This Mournable Body, we see her as an adult, still not succeeding. And in this book, she finally gives up trying to keep her identity as a rural girl in Zimbabwe, and sort of sells herself to the Western world. And I think that is very apt for what happens in African countries like Zimbabwe, because I think that they are often struggling to fit their culture and their beliefs and themselves in this world, this modern world that requires everybody to have these certain Western standards that they don't have and they don't want to have, but they have to have if they want to succeed in some way as a country, and not be poor and corrupt forever. So yeah, I think that's just a position of things is super interesting, and I like that Sisi Dangarembga writes for Zimbabweans, not for the Western world, and I like that we are lucky enough that this has reached us, and I really hope that if This Mournable Body wins, I know that a lot of people are reading This Mournable Body as a standalone because the other books are rather difficult to find, especially the Book of Nod. And I wish that she wins just so that these books become more available, the three of them. So yeah, that is my wish. I don't know what will happen. I don't call it a prediction because yeah, I feel unable to predict what is going to happen. But yeah, those are my preferences. Let me know if you have read these books, what you thought about them, if you would rank them differently, how do you think they should be ranked, who do you think should win. And until next video, bye!